The space station called Horizon Exchange Ring floated high above Earth, shining like a silver bracelet around the planet. It was a place made for peace, trade, and cultural learning between humans and alien species. Every corridor of the station was filled with new shapes, colors, languages, and smells that belonged to worlds far away. Among the many visitors, travelers and explorers, there was Lyrala, a woman from the planet Aurelian. She had tall height, smooth blue skin with a soft natural glow, and silver eyes that reflected light like a calm lake. Her people were known for their technology, mind communication, and song-like spoken language. They lived in shining crystal cities and grew energy from starlight itself. But they did not know what Earth foods were like. They did not bake, boil, roast, or fry anything. Their daily meals came in the form of nutrient crystals, small glowing cubes that melted instantly in the mouth and gave energy for many hours. Efficient, yes, but without taste, without warmth, without the feeling of something made by hands and care. Lyrala did not dislike the crystals. She had eaten them all her life. But sometimes when she would see humans on interstellar broadcasts eating together, laughing together, and sharing food with smiles, she would feel something unknown inside her chest, something like curiosity, but much deeper. She wanted to know what food meant to humans, because humans did not eat only to survive, they ate to share and to feel. So when she received permission to travel to the Horizon Exchange Ring and visit Earth's cultural marketplace, she accepted eagerly. On the other side of the market, a young human named Eli Rowan was preparing his display table. He was a baker from a small town in Europe, chosen to represent Earth's basic bakery culture. His hands were steady and practiced, shaped by years of kneading dough before dawn. He had brought a variety of breads, but his pride was the 13-inch baguette, something he practiced making since he was a boy helping in his family bakery. The baguettes were placed on a wooden board. Their color was golden brown. The crust had a delicate crackle sound when pressed lightly. The inside was soft, airy, and warm. The smell was gentle but comforting, like sunlight resting on morning fields. Humans walking by smiled when they smelled it. They knew this smell since childhood. They knew the meaning of warm bread, home. However, to Lyrala, this scent was entirely new. When she stepped into the marketplace, she saw lights, colors, and many items she could not identify. Some tables showed seeds, some displayed handmade fabric, some played earth music, but none of them caught her attention like that smell. She followed it quietly, like someone following a memory that never existed. Her eyes landed on Eli's table. She stepped closer slowly. Her voice was gentle, almost melodic when she spoke. "Human," she said politely. "May I ask what object creates this warm aroma?" Eli turned to look at her. He had seen a few aliens before, but her presence felt peaceful and graceful, like water flowing. He smiled kindly and pointed to the baguettes. "This is bread. It is called a baguette, a food made from wheat flour, water, yeast, and salt." Lyrala lifted her hand, but not to touch, only to observe better. She studied the bread as if it were something sacred. "You shape earth soil grains into this form and it becomes edible?" she asked, amazed. Eli laughed softly, not mocking her, just warm. "Yes, it takes time and care. The dough rises slowly. Then it is baked in a hot oven." Lyrala blinked, processing the explanation. Her people did not cook anything. The idea that someone worked to create food by hand was new to her. She leaned slightly closer and inhaled the warm scent. For a moment, her silver eyes softened. "It smells like—" She paused, looking for a word her language did not have. Finally, she said, "It smells like gentle safety." Eli's smile grew a little brighter. "That is why we like bread," he replied. Lyrala straightened her posture. With sincerity, she asked, "May I taste this baguette?" Eli nodded. He did not just hand her a whole one. Instead, he carefully cut a small piece from the end of one loaf. He placed the piece into a clean small dish and passed it to her. To Lyrala, this small action meant something big. He shared it respectfully, not as if giving a product, but as if offering a gift. She slowly lifted the small piece of bread to her lips. She took a bite and then she froze. The bread was warm, soft inside.
It had a gentle flavor.
Nothing strong, nothing aggressive, but something inside her chest opened. She remembered the feeling of sitting near a glowing crystal lamp during childhood. The soft singing of her mother, The calm quiet of the night. The warmth of holding someone's hand. Bread tasted like comfort. Her eyes glowed faintly, not bright but warm. This food, she whispered, voice trembling slightly. It holds emotion. Eli nodded slowly. It holds care. Someone made it with patience. And when we eat it, we feel that care. Lyrala placed her hand on her chest lightly. Her people had everything advanced, everything efficient, everything logical, but they did not have this. She looked at Eli again with a new expression, one of deep curiosity and respect. Human Eli, she said softly. Teach me how this is made. Eli blinked. He had expected many things today, questions, explanations, maybe some sales, but not this request. Teach you. To bake? He asked, surprised. Lyrala nodded. Yes. I want to learn not just how to make food, but how humans place emotion into craft. Eli felt something gentle inside him too. He nodded slowly. All right, I will teach you. And so that was how Earth's first interplanetary baking lesson began. But learning to bake bread was not simply following steps. It required patience, feeling, and understanding of time, something Lyrala had never experienced before. Eli took her to the station's cultural kitchen area, where different species could share cooking methods. The room smelled of spices from many worlds. Lyrala watched other beings prepare foods with different styles. Flames, steam, oils, herbs, everything felt like a story unfolding. Eli handed her an apron. She looked at it strangely. I wear this? Yes, he said, smiling. It keeps your clothing clean. She tied it clumsily. Eli helped gently. Lyrala watched him measure flour. Why not just ask the machine to measure everything instantly? She asked. Because the hands need to feel the balance, he answered simply. She realized, even before the dough was formed, she was about to learn more than making bread. She was about to learn a human way of living. The cultural kitchen on Horizon Exchange Ring was a busy place. Creatures of many shapes, colors, and sizes used it to share foods from their worlds. Some dishes steamed, some gave off bright fragrances, and some even glowed with tiny sparks of starlight. But the corner where Eli and Lyrala stood felt quiet and warm, like a small classroom away from the universe. Lyrala stood in front of the metal counter, wearing the apron Eli gave her. The apron was slightly too short for her tall frame, but she tied it carefully, trying to mirror the way Eli tied his own. Her silver eyes watched every movement with focus and curiosity. Eli placed a large, clear bowl in front of her. Bread begins here, he said, with simple ingredients. He held up a small bag of white flour. This is wheat flour. It comes from the grain of plants grown on Earth. Lyrala nodded slowly. Your people grow food from soil. To taste? She asked, still amazed. Yes, Eli replied softly. It's part of our history. He poured the flour into the bowl. A white cloud rose into the air, and Lyrala blinked as tiny particles landed on her hair and arms. She looked surprised, then quietly fascinated. Next, Eli added yeast. Tiny living organisms invisible to the eye. This is yeast. It helps the dough grow bigger. It breathes. Lyrala's eyes widened a little. Your food is alive? Eli laughed lightly. Not alive like animals, but yes, it is something that changes and grows. To Lyrala, whose food had always been perfectly measured and instant, the idea of food that changes with time was almost mysterious. He added warm water and a pinch of salt. Then he handed her the spoon. Now mix. Lyrala looked at the spoon, then at Eli, then back at the bowl. She began stirring slowly. The flour clumped together, becoming sticky. The more she mixed, the heavier it felt. Lyrala paused, staring at the messy dough like it was misbehaving. It is resisting, Eli nodded. Bread doesn't start perfect. You have to work with it. Lyrala listened closely, absorbing every word. She continued mixing, this time with more strength. The spoon scraped against the bowl, mixing flour and water into a rough dough. Eli could see her trying, not with frustration, but with determination. When the dough reached the right consistency, Eli gently touched her shoulder. Now we use our hands, he demonstrated first, pressing his palms into a small ball of dough, folding it, rolling it, pressing it again. The movements were smooth and rhythmic, like a dance that had been practiced many times. Lyrala placed her hands on her own dough. The texture was unfamiliar, soft yet strong, sticky yet formable. She pressed, folded, and rolled, copying Eli's movements. At first, her rhythm was uneven. The dough stuck to her fingers. She frowned slightly. "It clings to me," she said quietly. "Yes," Eli replied, "because it needs your patience." Lyrala paused. Patience was not something Aurelians often practiced. Their technology made everything efficient and immediate. They did not wait for things to change because machines change things instantly. But here, she was being asked to feel each moment. She took a small breath and tried again. This time her hands moved more gently. The dough responded, becoming smoother little by little. Eli watched her, noticing the focus in her eyes. She was not just copying now. She was learning to experience time passed quietly. The kitchen's other sounds faded into the background. Only the soft rhythm of kneading remained. Finally, Eli smiled. "That's enough. Now we let it rest." Lyrala looked down at the dough, now round and smooth. It looked peaceful, almost asleep. "Rest. For the food?" she asked. "Yes," Eli said. "The yeast will make it grow. It needs time." Lyrala tilted her head slightly. "You cannot rush this?" "No," Eli answered gently. "Some things must grow at their own pace." Lyrala placed her hand lightly over the bowl. Her voice softened. "This is a lesson, not only for bread." Eli nodded. "Yes." While the dough rested, they sat at a small metal table nearby. Lyrala observed the other cooks. She saw laughter, shared bowls, and simple smiles exchanged without effort. She finally asked, "Why do humans share food when gathering together?" Eli thought for a moment. "Because when we share food, we share ourselves. We show care. We show connection. Eating together makes us feel less alone." Lyrala looked down at her hands. Her people communicated through thoughts, but rarely sat together for the purpose of simply being present. They lived close, yet sometimes felt distant. "I understand now," she said slowly. "Food is more than energy." "Yes," Eli replied. "It is memory, comfort, togetherness." Lyrala let that settle in her heart. After a while, Eli checked the dough. It had grown larger, rounder, and lighter. Lyrala gasped softly. "It changed, without any machine." "Yes," Eli said. "Time changed it." Lyrala touched her chest again where she had felt warmth earlier. "This bread feels alive with purpose." He smiled. They shaped the dough into the long, familiar form of a baguette. Lyrala tried to make hers neat, but it came out slightly crooked. She looked at it with concern. "It is imperfect," Eli shook his head. "Imperfection is natural. It shows that it was made by hand, by someone real." Lyrala stared at her misshaped baguette for a long moment. Then, she smiled very softly. "Then this bread is mine." They placed both loaves into the oven. Warm air filled the space. The smell of baking bread began to rise slowly, wrapping them in gentle heat. Lyrala closed her eyes. The smell felt like sunlight resting on her shoulders. After some time, the oven beeped. Eli opened the door and steam drifted out. He lifted the loaves carefully and set them on a board. Lyrala leaned forward, her silver eyes reflecting the golden crust. Her baguette was not perfect. It was slightly shorter, a little uneven, but warm, handmade, created through patience, attention, and intention. She held it gently, like holding a memory. Eli tore a small piece from the end and handed it to her. Lyrala tasted it quietly. This time, the flavor was familiar but deeper because it was hers. Her voice trembled softly. "It tastes like understanding." Eli nodded. "You made it. With your time, your hands, your calm." Lyrala felt something new begin inside her chest, something warm and steady, not curiosity, not surprise, but connection. She looked at Eli and her tone was sincere. "Thank you, human Eli. You have given me more than knowledge. You have given me a part of your world." Eli smiled back. "And you've shared yours with me." In the quiet warmth of that baking room, two beings from different worlds sat together, eating bread they made side by side. No speeches, no grand history, no dramatic events, just two hearts understanding each other more than before, and sometimes that was enough to change entire worlds. After the first successful baking lesson, Lyrala could not stop thinking about bread. Every night she replayed the experience in her mind. The soft dough in her hands, the warmth of the oven, the smell filling the air, and the quiet satisfaction of tasting something she had created herself. On her homeworld, Aurelian life was perfect, efficient, and technologically advanced, but bread did not exist there. She knew she had to share this new wonder with her people. But she also wanted Eli to be there, to teach them the meaning behind food, not just the recipe. The idea came slowly, as it often did for her. A plan. "Human Eli," she said one morning in the marketplace, her eyes shining with excitement. "I wish to show my people this bread. Will you come with me?" Eli blinked, unsure if he heard her correctly. "Come with you? To your planet?" Lyrala nodded. Her tone was calm, confident, and somehow persuasive. "Yes. Your teaching will make them understand not only the bread, but the feeling behind it. Without you, it will be only dough." Eli laughed softly, but there was a thrill in his chest. He had never imagined traveling to another world to bake bread. Yet here it was, a real invitation. He agreed. A few days later, preparations began. The Horizon Exchange Ring had ships ready for cultural travel, and Eli boarded one, carrying only his baking tools and a small bundle of flour. Lyrala guided the ship with grace, her hands moving over holographic controls like she was conducting a symphony. The journey to Aurelian was calm. The view of stars passing by made Eli feel small yet full of wonder. Lyrala sat beside him, quietly observing his reactions. "Your world is vast," he said. "Yes," Lyrala replied, "but our cities are controlled by precision. Life is predictable. We have beauty, yes, but emotion is calculated." Eli looked at her thoughtfully. "And you want to share bread to show emotion?" She nodded. "Yes, emotion in a bite. Connection and warmth, memory and smell," Eli smiled. He had thought he was only teaching baking, but now he realized he was sharing a part of humanity itself. When they arrived, Aurelian's cities shone like crystal sculptures under the twin suns. Everything gleamed and reflected light. Machines moved silently, performing tasks that required precision beyond human imagining. Yet despite all the beauty, Eli noticed a lack of liveliness. The streets were clean, perfect, but quiet. Lyrala led him to the central gathering hall, a place usually reserved for important announcements and exhibitions. Today it would host something entirely different. Bread. She addressed the small assembly of Aurelians. "Friends, today we welcome a human from Earth. He has taught me the art of bread. Not only the shape, not only the flavor, but the meaning behind it. He brings warmth and patience, connection and care. Today we will learn together." The Aurelians listened silently, curious. They had never experienced food made by hand before, much less one created with intent and emotion. Eli set up a simple workstation: bowls, flour, yeast, water, and tools. The Aurelians watched every motion, their reflective eyes wide. Lyrala took his hand to guide her first student movements. "Hands first," Eli said. "Feel the dough. It responds to your care." At first, the Aurelians were stiff, cautious. Their movements were too precise, too exact. The dough stuck, pulled, and bounced back, causing small, quiet laughs among those learning. Lyrala giggled softly at their reactions, which made the assembly feel warmer. One Aurelian, named Soren, tilted his head and whispered telepathically to Lyrala, "Why is it messy? Why must it stick?" Lyrala smiled. "Because life is messy. Bread is alive. You must respect it and care for it." Soren tried again, this time pressing gently with both hands. The dough slowly formed a soft ball. He looked at it in wonder. "It listens?" he asked. Eli nodded. "Yes, bread responds to care. Care you put in, emotion you give." The Aurelians were silent for a moment, letting the words sink in. Then one by one, small smiles appeared. Hands moved more gently. Laughter emerged softly. The room felt alive in a way Aurelian life rarely allowed. Spontaneous, imperfect, warm. After shaping the dough into long baguettes, Eli helped place them in simple ovens, powered safely for demonstration purposes. The smell began to fill the hall, rich and golden. Aurelians, who had never smelled such a thing, tilted their heads as the scent reached them. Eyes widened. Some leaned forward as if inhaling could teach them everything about it. "It smells," whispered Soren, his voice soft. "Like peace?" Lyrala smiled, holding her own baguette gently. "It is more than taste," she said. "It is feeling. Every movement, every second becomes part of this bread." When the loaves were ready, Eli broke the first piece carefully and handed it to Lyrala. She tasted it quietly, closing her eyes. Then slowly she handed pieces to the others. The Aurelians tried theirs. The expressions that appeared were unlike anything Eli had ever seen in them. Small, delighted gasps, the softest smiles, and a gentle warmth that seemed to radiate from their bodies. One Aurelian whispered to another, This is happiness we can touch." Lyrilla nodded. Exactly. Connection does not need technology. It grows in the hands and hearts of those who care. By the end of the day, Eli noticed something remarkable. The hall was still perfectly clean, but it felt lived in. Lyralla's people were talking softly, sharing pieces of bread, asking questions, and laughing gently. They looked at each other in a new way, noticing the small joys of imperfect creations. Eli turned to Lyrilla. "You did it," he said softly. She looked at him, silver eyes glinting like starlight. "No," she replied. "We did it together." And for the first time, Aurelian life felt a little less perfect but infinitely warmer. In the days that followed, Eli taught small groups more techniques, shaping rolls, kneading gently, making soft loaves. Lyralla became his assistant, guiding students patiently, explaining the importance of care, presence, and emotion. Every meal afterward included bread. Not as a necessity, but as a way to share and connect. Aurelians began to invite each other to bake together, forming small, spontaneous communities. Eli realized something important. He had not only shared a recipe, he had shared a way of being, a way to feel connected, to slow down, to create something with patience and love. And that perhaps was the greatest gift humans could give. Before returning to Earth, Lyralla presented Eli with a small gift, a crystalline jar filled with Aurelian honey, a delicacy from her planet infused with starlight. "For your bread," she said. "So your creations always carry a little of Aurelian light." Eli accepted it with a humble smile. "And you," he replied, "carry a little of earth warmth wherever you go." They laughed softly, a sound that crossed worlds and species alike. As the ship lifted off Aurelian, Eli looked down at the glowing cities. They sparkled as always, but now he could almost see the warmth within them. The invisible threads of connection beginning to spread, stitch by stitch, loaf by loaf. Lyralla sat beside him, baguette in hand, gazing out at the stars. "Thank you, human Eli," she said quietly, "for teaching me more than I expected." Eli smiled. "No, thank you," he said, "for reminding me why bread and sharing matters so much." And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, two beings from entirely different worlds shared a simple truth. Patience, care, and warmth can cross even the greatest distances in the universe. Bread, it seemed, was not only for eating, it was for connecting hearts, no matter the planet.